I don't really have a quip in terms of an opening for this video, but the original Freddy glove could sell up to $1 million. You'd think for that chunk of change they could at least slash the price. Hey guys, welcome back to a new video here on the channel, and this is, I wouldn't say a monumental video, but to me and a lot of glove builders and glove collectors in the glove community, this is a big deal. And I wanted to share it with you and talk about it and kind of react to the auction page. So the prop store, who are based in Los Angeles and London, are about to have a massive prop auction. We've got Captain America's shield, we've got Indiana Jones props, and of course, the original screen-used Freddy Krueger glove from A Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 2, and a promo from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 before it mysteriously disappeared but had resurfaced in 2009. Now, the estimate for what it could sell up to in Great British Pound is $400,000. Now, in Australian dollars, that is close to $800,000. But we all know when it's the estimate, it usually goes over the estimate. So there is a very good chance that this glove could sell for $1 million or close to, which is just insane. So again, I'm going to be reacting and going over to the description on the auction page. So I'm very interested to see what they say. We also have authentication from Jim Doyle, who designed and helped build the glove, and Lou Carlucci, who also helped build the glove. But before we get to that, a bit of history of this particular glove, because it is a wild ride leading up to this very point. It's one of the things where if you're a Freddy glove aficionado, you know the backstory. If you are not familiar with the gloves or you just know them at face value, it's a pretty interesting story. And if you just clicked on this video on a whim, welcome. Hope you enjoy. Hope I don't bore the shit out of you. So like I said, the original glove was used in Nightmare on Elm Street 1, Nightmare on Elm Street 2. It had changed differently in terms of its appearance. It was a lot more battered. The blades had been blunted. And then it was used for promo work on A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Then after that, the glove mysteriously disappeared. It's one of those things where a lot of people said it was stolen. I think it was just put into storage and someone just didn't know what they had, because they definitely did it. Fast forward over 20 years later, the glove shows up on an auction site, Heritage Auctions for that matter. The leather glove is completely gone, but it is replaced with a replacement leather glove. It is listed as a prototype glove for A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. The glove ended up selling for $650 USD, which back then, I think it was nearly dollar for dollar in terms of the Aussie dollar, but now you're looking at 850 Australian dollars, which is just ridiculous. So anyway, collector Mike Becker calls up the auction house because he had missed the auction. He hounds them and says, please tell the buyer to send the glove back. I will give them an offer of much more money for that glove. He hounded them for a very long time till eventually the auction house called him and said, are you still interested in doing that deal? He said, yep, send it back. I'll send the cash. It's varying in terms of what he offered, so I'm not going to say just in case I get my facts wrong, but you know, it was a substantial amount. The original hero had finally been found. Mike had it for many years. It was covered in a dark brown spray paint, and it was just so cool to see the hero once again, especially for glove builders. I remember at the time when the photos surfaced from Mike and the auction photos, and they're all in high res. It was just so cool to see them up close, and it just really helped if you were a glove builder and building the Part 1/Part 2 glove. Many years later, Mike finally decided to sell the glove to a fellow named Kurt, who was a collector, and he had the glove reside in a pop culture museum in Seattle that was also accompanied by a screen-used sweater. Now, at first the glove and the sweater were together, but then they were separated and placed under like a glass plate and all that with the glove designs that were done by Jim Doyle and stuff like that. Now, there was a reproduction leather glove made to accompany the armature that was built by a good friend of mine by the name of Mark Petrie, who does some of the best Part 1 and Part 2 gloves out there. And fast forward to now, Kurt has decided to sell the glove through the prop store. So what we're going to do is go through the actual auction listing, because it's now listed online. Bidding is about to start. It's going to be a fucking wild ride in terms of seeing this. I'm keen to see how much this sells for. Can you imagine if it's sold for $1 million? Alrighty, here's the auction page. Lot 275, Nightmare on Elm Street 1984, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge 1985, Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund, screen match, hero metal glove. armor and razor-bladed fingers with hand-drawn schematics. So those are the original blueprints that came from Jim Doyle back in 1984 when he designed the glove, and right before it got built by himself, Lou Carlucci, and assisted by Charlie Blottinelli. So it goes on to say, bidding for this lot will end on Thursday, November 9th. The auction will begin at 3 p.m. BST, and lots are sold subsequently via a live auctioneer. Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund's Scream Match Metal Hero Armature Razor Blade Fingers with original hand-drawn design schematic from Wes Craven's original A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Jack Shoulders' A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy's Revenge. The glove armature and razor-bladed fingers scream match to multiple shots in the seminal genre-defying A Nightmare on Elm Street film, as well as multiple shots and publicity photos from the sequel. The original designer Jim Doyle and fabricator Lou Carlucci of this unforgettable piece have confirmed that this was the sole hero glove with metal blades fabricated for the original film and reused in the sequel. 2 stunt gloves with plastic blades were also created. This piece was also utilized as reference to production on the third Nightmare on Elm Street film, but the original leather glove element of the piece was lost to time and additional paintwork, since removed, was applied. I can't read. The original metalwork is currently presented on a replica leather glove made by Mark Petrie. So there's just a bit of a description on the film, but I want to get to the actual nitty-gritty stuff. The backplate, finger stalls, and infamous razor blades. Blades are unsharpened because they got used to the shithouse and back. Are all original and have several unique characteristics that distinguish them from the gloves made for later films. Jim Doyle attached the stainless steel razor blades to the finger stalls with silver braze, as he wanted them to be especially strong. The blades on later gloves were typically attached with a softer standard lead solder. The silver braze also had a nicer aesthetic and patina. Fabricator Carlucci had to tackle the core challenge of making the metal finger covers work practically. So the glove was capable of full range of motion, and this process of trial and error left several indicators on the interior of the metal components that distinguish it as the original, in addition to the on-screen matches, such as an uneven semicircle cut on the middle finger. And we're going to get to see the underside of the glove, which is a big deal. Like, a lot of glove builders have seen the underside, but for those who aren't really in the know or just aren't familiar with this, it's actually pretty cool to see the underside of a prop, stuff that you'd never see before. So the silver braze solder seams simulating weld seams are unique and screen matched to many close-up shots in both the original film and sequel. The metalwork was cleaned up for production of the sequel, with the red coloring visible on the fingertips in the first film largely removed. Some rivets were also replaced at the time. The metal armor and the blades were originally held onto the leather glove's fingers with a series of rings. These rings were later removed, possibly during production on the third film, though remnants of them are still visible on the armature's interior. Replica rings have been lightly tacked into the finger interiors to allow the metalwork to be displayed on a replica leather work glove, as the original leather glove is no longer present. Of special note is the index finger blade, which is cut and re-welded just past the end of the fingertip. This was done for a deleted scene in the original film, in which the index finger blade is broken off the glove. The reattached and accompanying welds are visible in many images from the sequel. Accompanying this piece is mechanical special effects coordinator Jim Doyle's original hand-drawn schematic for the iconic glove, rendered in pencil and ink on graph paper with a Doyle Enterprises stamp, which was approved by director Craven before fabrication began. 2 letters of authenticity from glove fabricator Lou Carlucci and glove designer Jim Doyle are also included, confirming that the glove is the only metal-bladed hero glove made for the film. This is the original first ever hero version of what is now one of the most recognizable film props in the history of the horror genre. That is so cool. So I'm just going to quickly skim through the photos as well, because it's just so cool to see these in high res. Like, we obviously had high res images back in 2009, and over the years Mike had shared some high res images of when the glove was in his possession, but now proper studio high res, zoom the fuck in, and there you go with that beautiful replica replacement leather glove from Mark Petrie. But it is just so cool and mesmerizing to look at, especially when you get into the comparison shots that the prop store have done. That's what I love when they do the comparisons. They have the little arrows pointing everywhere, but the history behind this is incredible. So there are those replica ringlets that are able to hold on to the leather glove a lot better. And again, they're tacked on, they're not permanently secured. Just see just the beautiful brazing welds and stuff like that, all the bends. And just the blades. The blades have gone through the absolute ringer. And also, shout out to Keith on one of the glove pages on Facebook, who was able to zoom in close enough that you can see the Case XX logo on one of the blades, which is so cool. Because again, they use Case XX P210 tomato knives on this particular glove. And those things these days on eBay sell for an absolute buttload. It's ridiculous. But just see all like the scratches and stuff like that, and even the drill hole on the ring finger, absolutely beautiful. Now if we get to, oh look, some of these poses are really cool. They're emulating classic poses, which is really cool. So I think this is where we're going to get to the underside of the glove. There we go. So this is the underside of the glove. For years, this was shrouded in mystery. Mike would not let photos get out of what the underside of the glove looked like. But we can see a bit of epoxy going on there. So they've snapped the ringlets off for some reason, possibly because someone's hand couldn't fit in it. And they're like, fuck it, we got to snap the bottom ringlets off. And then I think they've gone ahead and, epoxied on replacement ones. They have come off over time. But we also see the paper fastener holding the pinky stall in place, which is crazy. They've also reinforced some of the rivets on the back plate with solder. Like, it's an absolute mess, but it has so much history under it. It's just so cool to see, and I just love seeing stuff like this, like the dirty, gnarly underside of a prop that people would normally not see. And there we have the schematic there from Jim Doyle. I used to own one of these from Jim Doyle. He did high-end prints of them, and him and Lou Carlucci sold them. And I had bills to pay, and I sold it once, and I absolutely regretted it. But holy shit, this is so cool. So like I said, it is estimated to sell upwards of 400,000 Great British pounds, which again, converted is close to 800,000. Now, in the past, there have been Freddy gloves that have gone under the hammer, and they have gone above their estimated selling value, which is ridiculous. Some gloves haven't even seen the light of day in terms of being on film. They've just been made for production, but they never rolled film on it, and they have sold for an ungodly amount, like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. A lot of the times you will see Nightmare on Elm Street 5 gloves doing the rounds because there were so many gloves built, metal gloves built for that matter, for Part 5. But in this case, this is a one-off. They only built one metal hero glove for the first Elm Street, and there were 2 stunt gloves that are just wrecked these days. But they are still in possession of collectors, which is really cool. And there you have it, guys. If you weren't familiar with the history of the original Freddy glove, I hope you got a jonesing out of that. I'm so excited and full of anticipation to see what this sells for. To whoever gets it, fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. That's so damn cool, man. Help me, I'm poor. With that being said, guys, drop a comment below and let me know what your grail film prop piece would be. For me, it would be that. Like, hands down, that's it. Apart from that, probably like, a screen-used Freddy sweater, or actually the original screen-used fedora from Part 1. They did use a couple of different brand fedoras, but I would like just to get one with the proper big-ass bow around the crown and the nice thick trim and stuff like that. But it's definitely going to be the Hero Freddy glove. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.